Hey guys, I just wanted to share a little more information about my previous video, which is called Famine is Coming, Get Ready, God's Josephs. I thought I was done with the video, but then the Lord reminded me that I needed to share some more information and give a bit more of the background and like a follow-up. So this same businessman who I saw in the food queue in my previous videos, I'm just going to call him Raymond. Okay, we need a name to kind of go forward. So that's not his real name, but let's call him Raymond. Let's park it to the side and I'll start a conversation that I had with the Lord and then come back to Raymond in a little bit. So my puzzled question was that, Lord, I know you're giving a great big wealth transfer to all of us, your children, through these cryptos. Is one of the many ways He's going to give us the wealth transfer. And how is it the rich people are going to lose? Because these people are very, very switched on, very smart, because they've been dealing with money for a while and they know how to protect their wealth, and they know what is the latest thing that's happening in the money market, and all of them, they get into these much quicker than we do. So my question was, Lord, how are they going to lose their wealth? How is it that these people are not prepared? So the Lord said to me, look at the prophecies all throughout the Bible. And I speak to my children before things happen. I tell my prophets and I give warnings and I give hints, but people don't listen. And it's the same thing repeating now. It has repeated in the past. History repeats itself, and it is going to repeat again. So let's put this into our perspective of what we're going through right now. So God has given these prophecies through various different people, and people are getting price points, cryptos, and even the sell limit orders, buy limit orders. People are sharing their experiences. Don't you think the people of the world would just take a note and say, right, maybe it's working, maybe it's not working. Let me just put maybe £100 in there. £100 means nothing for some of these rich people, right? But no, people are going to go after the ones that are winning the race right now. So in Elijah Streams, a little while ago, I think it was the Derby, Kentucky race or something. I will try and see if I can find the link to put it down there, put it down in the description box for you. So there was a horse called Rich Strike. Even my King Yeshua, that lady mentioned as well quite recently. So if you go back and really read the story of this horse, Rich Strike, and the owner, it's absolutely fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And Johnny Enlow really shared the story on Elijah Streams at one point, and I think you will be able to find it on Elijah Clips if it's still there. And this owner, don't quote me, I'm just sharing this by memory, so you need to go and research and find out the real story. So the story goes along the lines of the owner of this horse, actually he had many horses, he was a breeder, and the fire hit and he lost everything, nearly everything, literally. And then either this horse was the last one kind of left, or he went and bought this one horse, and it is this one who won the Derby, Kentucky. And it was just awesome the way the whole thing worked out, and God had a message in it. So exactly the same way, God is actually giving us price points with Shiba Inu, with Terra Luna Classic, and XRP, and all the other coins that people have prophesied about. But the world can't see it. They will mock at you because logically it doesn't work. Because there's no way, the way Shiba is, it's a community coin. It hasn't got a particular utility as such behind it. and there's no way this coin is going to be so and so and so. So some people even commented on a couple of my dreams on my videos and said that, do you even know what it takes for Shiba to hit $1? And you're talking about 7.77, and it's just a dream. And it's mocking. So people are mocking you, mocking me, mocking all of us. But what they don't see is the logic that works in this world doesn't really apply when God says something. Because when you look at logic, when you look at from the scientific point of view, the undeveloped scientific point of view as of now, creation doesn't make sense. That's why the world is blind. In the same way, it's all going to be in God's timing, and things will be toppled over overnight. Like everybody talked about a 24-hour monumental change that is coming. This has been talked about in the last couple of years mainly. So I believe there is going to be there's going to be a time for us to gain something out of the wealth transfer, about the spikes and the the dip downs, and then there's going to be something else in the economy that's going to happen to bring everything down, like literally the whole thing. The silver and gold is going to be revalued, the silver especially, and then all the cryptos coming down. This is where some of the dreams of Bitcoin crash to zero level comes into kind of play, and then it's going to be up again. So the first lot that I see is, when I say I see, this is not what God has told me. This is my kind of understanding, because there are times that I have looked at situations and I have kind of worked out logically, spiritual logically, that this is not going to happen. This is going to happen. So it's kind of that inner knowing when you know God and you see the markers coming up. So if we are preparing to be Josephs, then this cannot happen after the market crash. It has to happen before, because it is when the market crashes, the properties are going to be low, everything's going to be selling cheap, and we will have the money to buy when it is cheap. It's much cheaper than it is now. So in that sense, the Shiba Inu spikes and the Terra Luna spikes and other cryptos the Lord has talked about, where people have already prepared, have their buy limit orders already ready. When this happens, the reason God has given us the dreams from so many different people that it's going to go to Shiba Inu, is going to go to $1, and then it's going to go to 13, is because it's going to happen so quickly that by the time other people wake up, by the time all the exchanges are sending you messages like zoom, 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 and then your emails and your messages are being bombarded, when people get alerts and when they jump on it to actually wanting to buy some ship and then sell it or whatever, it's not going to happen. It's going to happen so quickly. That's part of the reason why we all needed to prepare. And when this happens, it goes up and then it comes down, and within the blink of an eye, people are going to be rich millionaires, possibly billionaires overnight. So then when this happens, I believe that maybe after a little while later, the market crash is going to hit, because there's going to be a lot of rumbling, shaking from every direction. And this is when we're going to see Bitcoin coming down to zero levels and then going up again, because this is the time everything, literally everything, being crashed and kind of shaken up, and chaos and all sorts of things. And this is the time God will allow us to prepare. So it could be any time next year. I have no idea about the timing. I wish I knew, but I don't know. So going back to my original comment in this video about Raymond. So I was talking about, Lord, how is this possible that these people haven't prepared? And then the Lord said to me that these people are bidding on the winning horses. They have bought what? They bought Bitcoins and Ethereums and other cryptos that are just going so high, so well, because the wisdom of the world will tell them a certain thing, and that's what they're banking on. And but what is going to happen is they have no idea that God has got a secret weapon where He's going to bless His children because of His children, because of His children, because of His promises, because of His plans, because of His supernatural provision, because of His divine purpose, because of His children, who is the body of Christ. He's going to do something miraculous, just like what He did during the Red Sea parting, because this whole thing fits in. Can you see that this whole thing is just modeled after Israel? So they passed through the midnight, the day of the Passover. They took the gold, they borrowed gold, and people gave them in leaps and bounds, and they were they were carrying, they packed everything, they had animals, and they went through the night. And then when they passed through the Red Sea, they had to see this miracle. But then Pharaoh came after them, but his army was destroyed. And then what happened? They go to the other side of the sea, and then their real challenge began, because they had the wealth, but they did not have the food. So now they had to rely on the Lord for food. And we are going to experience exactly the same thing. So there's going to be some sort of a wealth transfer, and then we're going to go through this parting of the Red Sea, and then the famine's going to hit. So I believe that there is going to be multiple times where we could be cashing in on the spikes that's going to go. Like, say, for example, Bitcoin, when it goes down to level 0, you could buy tons of Bitcoin. And then Bitcoin has to go up again, because it will go up as per the prophecies. So you buy it for maybe 10 cents, maybe 1 cent, maybe $1, maybe $10. And then how much ever you can afford, buy loads of them. And then when it goes up, you're going to make money again. And this is God's divine plan. So going back to the original comment about Raymond, because the part that I'm going to share about Raymond is the real story. It's not just a parable. And this is what I wanted to share, but the Lord took me on saying things that I have just said. I hope you don't mind. It's already 13 minutes past, but now I'm just going to share with you about a little bit more about Raymond. So Raymond was about to invest in a big venture. He had made his money by selling a business venture, and he had made his money. And at the point of him investing in this business, obviously I did not know what this business was about, even though my husband knew, because we were still working for this person at the time. God gave me a word to give it to this man Raymond, and that word was like a love letter from God. And I felt a little jealous, to be honest with you, when I wrote it, but then when I read it, I was a bit jealous. But anyway, it was my duty to give it to him. Gave it to him, no response, and total silence. And soon after that, my husband had finished the job. The contract was finished, so we were kind of moving places, and that was the end of our connection with him. And later on, like 2 years later, during 2020, middle of the pandemic, the Lord gave me another word to send them on email about his wife's health. And it was a warning. I know it was a real act of obedience for me, because I really struggled sending that word to them, but I did. Again, no response. And since then, I've been just watching. So, going back to the business venture that the Lord gave him the word, which was 2018 and 2019, they launched the business. So, for a year and a half, the business was in planning. It was a big venture, and it was connected with Formula One. So, anyway, in 2019, December, I had two dreams. One dream, in the first dream, I see this man coming in a Formula One car, and then it was in a barn, just he parked it. And then I was inside the barn just waiting. There was snow outside, and I believe the snow was about cleansing. And he turns away and he looks at me and he says, "It's your God, is it?" It's kind of a arrogance, a kind of sentence. It was sort of a mockery. "Oh, we'll see what happens. It's your God, is it?" That kind of an attitude. And the dream ended. And the second one was, the same man, Raymond, was slumped in a sofa in a dressing gown, and the day was just the gloomiest day you could imagine. Rainy, dark, and cloudy, just as if the calamity had hit. That's the only word I could describe the dream about, that his life had been hit by a storm. A calamity had hit, and he was holding his head in both hands, and literally as if someone who had lost everything overnight. And all the memories in his house was like, the glass, the pictures that you have about of your family and friends and your memories, everything was shattered, and the glass was all shattered into pieces. And somehow I had this message that I was there to clean up the mess. So anyway, I'm cutting the two dreams short, because I don't want to go into all the detail. I'm only telling you how much I need to tell you at this point. So the first dream, God was telling me the business is going to be parked for a while. And that did happen in 2020, the following year, when the pandemic happened. Obviously, every business, every sport was shut. And the calamity is yet to happen. Now, people like these, see, he has a big calling on his life, which I know, because that's what the word given to him said. But he did not heed to the warning. God wanted him to be on God's side, and it was like a love letter from father to son, and he did not heed. And now he's going to have to go through the grinding mill of learning it the hard way. And so what happened was, in their business just this year, and they started again, last year, 2021, it went from strength to strength, and God was giving me dream after dream and word after word about what's going to happen in their life and how things are connecting, but it didn't feel like what God was telling me was happening. But I know my God by years and years of walking with him. When he says something, you just hang on to it. It will come to pass. So come 2022, I didn't really kind of catch up with the news much or what was going on. And it was quite recently, suddenly it just popped up in my head, and I went online to check some stuff, because you can find out about their business, because it's just public knowledge. And what they have done is, publicly they have supported the LGBTQ agenda through their business. In I think 2022 March. And a few of the races later, they had to close down the last few races because of money issues. And I was like, oh my God, it is really happening. So can you see how, also there's one more point I want to make about, World Cup football. And my husband said to me when it came to the quarterfinals, or yeah, the semifinals or quarterfinals, whichever, all the nations who supported LGBTQ agenda in Qatar openly, just because that country doesn't support the gay marriage and everything else, and they all kind of made it a point to support it. None of them made it to the top. And this is kind of God's judgment, don't you think? That, you mock and then you receive it straight away. So anyway, that was outside the point. I just wanted to just throw it in there. So coming back to the story, their business, Raymond's business, is already in trouble because they had to cut down a lot of their races because of that. And then they, for next year, I think by the time they said they want to focus on funding for next year, and they want to carry on the next year because their business model is such they have to do it, because there's no way, this is just public domain. And I believe by the time, even if they do find funding, things are going to be much more drastic next year. By that time, I believe the market crash will happen, which means his business will totally be finished. And his idea, because this is something he shared with my husband, when he was investing in the business, we knew a little bit about what was going on, who was going to be the CEO, and all those kind of stories, because my husband was like quite kind of there when sharing and whatever. So the investments that he made, he put a very large bulk of his fortune into this business, and in 5 years' time, he was going to make like 60 million. And I do believe that's not the case, because they're already in financial trouble. So we just have to watch and wait and watch and see what's going to turn up. But I do believe everything the Lord said to me about him and his business is just coming to pass. It's not that I'm rejoicing over it. It's something the Lord warned him, the Lord gave him the choice, but he did not take it up. And I'm seeing it with my own eyes, what's happening. So this wealth transfer is true, and it is happening, and it's for us, God's children, who've been waiting, watching, and being obedient in what God says, not in what the world says, but what God says about it. So I just want to encourage you with this story, and this is the second part. If you haven't watched the first part, I'll place a link below the video. God bless you all. Until next time.